The text message arrived at exactly 6:47 in the morning while I looked at the ceiling tiles of the surgical waiting room. My phone buzzed on the metal tray beside my hospital bed, breaking the heavy silence. The message from my husband stated that he wanted a divorce because he could not handle another year of my medical crisis. He was abandoning me 43 minutes before my tumor surgery. I did not shed a single tear after reading those cold words on the glowing screen. Instead, I placed the device face down and folded my hands over the purple marker lines drawn on my skin. I am a 31-year-old fourth-grade teacher from a quiet neighborhood, and I had spent my entire life caring for others. Now, I was completely alone facing the darkest day of my existence. My students had given me a handmade card before I left, promising to protect my classroom chair until I returned to school safely. Their pure kindness stood in sharp contrast to the cruelty of the man I had married a decade ago. We met at a summer wedding when I was young, and he charmed me completely with his false promises. I truly believed that I was the luckiest woman alive. Everything shattered when the doctors discovered a massive malignant growth during a routine autumn examination. My husband attended the initial consultation and wept in the parking lot, but his empathy quickly vanished as the weeks dragged on. He began working late, traveling constantly, and sleeping in the guest bedroom under the pretense that I needed rest. He treated my survival as an annoying chore. The morning of the operation brought even more chaos when my mother, Clara, slipped on the icy front steps while packing her vehicle. She broke her wrist in the fall, forcing me to sit in an emergency room with her before taking a solitary cab to my own procedure. I insisted that she stay behind for treatment, lying to her that my husband would meet me at the main entrance. When the heavy anesthesia finally lifted, the raw pain in my abdomen felt absolutely unbearable. The recovery room was shared with another patient because the private rooms were completely filled that afternoon. Through the thin curtain, a deep voice told me to remain still while he summoned medical assistance. A man with dark hair and a paperback book appeared, explaining that he did not want me to awake alone. That simple act of human kindness caused me to weep silently into my pillow. The stranger did not offer empty platitudes, but he gently placed a clean napkin near my hand before retreating back to his side. His name was Vance, a 36-year-old who claimed to teach occasionally. We spoke for several minutes, and I shockingly confessed the entire truth about my broken marriage and my mother. The following morning, my mother arrived with a bright blue cast on her arm and an exhausted expression. Vance immediately offered her 3 of his own novels from the bedside table to help pass the long hours. My mother was incredibly difficult to impress, but his quiet charm worked instantly. Later that afternoon, she whispered in my ear that this mysterious man was definitely not a standard school teacher. The official pathology reports indicated that the cancer was advanced and required 6 immediate rounds of intense chemotherapy. As the oncologist delivered this terrifying news at the foot of my bed, Vance kept his eyes fixed on his book to give us privacy. Once the doctor departed, the quiet stranger looked at me and softly promised that I would survive this battle. I wanted so badly to believe him. Late that night, under the influence of strong painkillers, I became strangely bold in the quiet darkness. I looked through the open curtain and jokingly told Vance that he should marry me if I survived this ordeal. It was the absurd thing you say to a stranger when reality feels distant. To my absolute surprise, he laughed softly and agreed to the arrangement without hesitation. An older nurse entered the room the next morning to check his vital signs and froze when she noticed us talking. She hurriedly escorted Vance away for an unscheduled radiology appointment, leaving me confused. Later that afternoon, I discovered that my husband, Julian, had already changed the locks on our family home. The betrayal was complete, and I had no choice but to rely entirely on the strength of my mother. My mother secured a talented legal representative and moved my personal belongings into a small guest cottage. I began my grueling chemotherapy treatments 3 weeks later, losing my hair in massive clumps. During my second session, a mysterious package arrived containing a classic novel with a short note signed with the letter V. The secret sender knew exactly how to comfort me during those exhausting hours in the medical chair. A severe infection during the 4th round forced me back into the hospital for 9 painful days. A delivery of bright yellow tulips arrived at the nursing station with a card stating that he was still there. My mother watched the delivery and finally confessed that she had seen a private security detail guarding Vance during our initial stay. The quiet teacher was actually a prominent billionaire running a massive family foundation. The divorce proceedings escalated drastically in January when Julian attempted to freeze all my financial assets. He legally claimed that the cancer treatments had permanently impaired my mental judgment and capacity. To prove this, his legal team brought a surprise witness who claimed to be a nurse from my surgical ward. A tall woman named Evelyn walked into the room, but I had never seen her face before in my life. Evelyn testified under oath that I was emotionally unstable and had claimed to be engaged to a complete stranger. My brilliant lawyer allowed the woman to finish her elaborate lies before presenting devastating counter-evidence. We exposed the secret truth that Evelyn had been the romantic mistress of my husband for over 14 months. They had even spent the night together right before my major cancer surgery took place. Official hospital assignment records proved that Evelyn had never been assigned to my specific wing or viewed my medical chart legally. This massive privacy violation completely destroyed her credibility, forcing the judge to dismiss her false testimony immediately. Julian sat in absolute silence as his elaborate scheme crumbled to pieces around him. I walked out into the courthouse hallway, overwhelmed by the sudden rush of relief and vindication. Vance was waiting near the elevators, looking incredibly sharp in a tailored charcoal suit that matched his striking eyes. He gently guided me to a nearby bench while I attempted to process the dramatic events. He confessed that he could not stop thinking about the brave woman who refused to break during the worst moment of her life. He wanted to know the real me, far away from his immense wealth. The divorce concluded swiftly, allowing me to retain my house and my inheritance while Julian lost his professional position. 1 year later, Vance and I stood in the beautiful backyard of my mother to exchange our wedding vows. Leo and several former students attended the small ceremony, celebrating our unexpected journey. Vance smiled warmly and stated that he had chosen me from the very first night we shared a room. We now share a beautiful life in a modest house on a quiet street, far away from the chaotic drama of the past. I still teach my wonderful 4th grade class, and Vance continues his simple university lectures. The most beautiful realization is that when I was abandoned and broken, the universe had already placed my future husband in the bed right next to mine. He was already waiting to save me.